Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we are going to be going over an overview of some of the things that have changed in Explorer with the Wilds of Eldraine. Now normally I'd like to come in and be like, these are the stats, these are, from Untapped, from MTGO leagues, but kinda sorta, because it's Pioneer and Explorer and they're two different formats, but that's beyond the point. We're going to get a Pioneer on Arena in like 2052. There hasn't been a huge amount of data from a recent kind of infographic from the Wizards team. They said Explorer is the least played format, and it's kind of reflective in the data. But I want to kind of go over and see both for the stats that we have, what's working, as well as looking at from the recent Pioneer leagues and challenges, which decks have been showing up, and seeing which are decks that we can port over to Arena, either card for card or slight variation. So this is meant to kind of give you an overview, see what things are changing, what things to maybe consider if you're interested in playing in the format itself. So kind of from the meta perspective, we're looking at Untapped data. If you like Untapped, you can follow the link below and you can get all these stats and everything like that on your own in the video description. I'll paste all these deck lists for the MTGO ones. I will try the best I can to create Arena consumable versions. So taking out cards like, for example, Urborg is an easy one. We can replace it with a swamp. But there's certain cards like Reckless Bushwhacker that we don't have that I'll put something else in to kind of make the deck viable in the interim. So we have a breakdown in terms of popularities of the decks. Don't mind the July 18th. This is popularity of the day. So Green Devotion, Rakdos Midrange, Rakdos Sacrifice. So kind of the main offenders are still here. Spirit's doing the best for today. We see like an increase in terms of Devotion and Rakdos Midrange. Kind of just going really quick. I'm not going to show individual deck lists for these existing decks, but Mono Green Devotion has experimented with some number of tortoises. The new Mythic Tortoise, its ability reduces the cost of activating Nykthos. It can help you mill into both Nykthoses and then kind of get them into play, as well as getting you Storm the Festival into your graveyard. So it's something people have been trying out. In Rakdos Midrange, there's kind of two variations. So some of them are trying out Decadent Dragon as a 2-of, and then there's also a Beseech the Mirror Waste Not version that's been coming out. So we're going to take a look at that one as well. Abzan Greasefang hasn't really changed much. The Lotus Field, they've played the Horn Whale as a 1-2 of in some of those decks. They also banished Midnight, I think. It's a 3-mana, destroy target non-land permanent. Your opponent creates a 1-1. So these are kind of the one of cards that people are trying out in that. So we're going to look at Untapped first. So this deck doesn't really have much of the new stuff. This is a best of 1 version, but it was doing well in best of 3. This is actually the only deck that had a that made it through to the Arena Championship last time out of the last Explorer qualifier. So it is a Izzet Transmogrify deck. So this one's kind of is a control deck, and then you transmogrify any of your tokens into Atraxa. Win that way. You also have Myrex and Mutavault as kind of your beatdown package line. But you're making tokens with things like Flip the Switch to create a zombie. This version's actually pretty lean, so it's just Flip the Switch and Shark Typhoon as ways to make tokens, in addition to your creature lines. Counters, look for the combo, bunch of burn, kind of disrupt your opponent into that plan. So most of the time in best of 1, especially, your opponent can't answer an Atraxa necessarily. The deck that got like an upgrade and is doing really well, both in best of 1 and in best of 3, is this Boros Heroic deck, and it's really just because of Monstrous Rage. So the big thing in this deck is you make a big creature, but then you can't push through the damage. They're playing the 2-mana one that either gives 2 creatures plus 2/0 and trample, or gives them 4/0 and trample. Obviously, being 2 mana versus 1 mana, this leaves the trample on all the time. So you don't just get the one-time bursts, cheaper mana. So if you don't have a pump on the Dreadhorde for that turn, it also comes back. And then it works really nice with things like Illuminator Virtuoso that has first strike and trample. So you're pushing through a lot of damage there. The rest of the deck is just kind of targeting your own creatures with protection effects or pump effects, and then getting them larger. So things like the heroic creatures in Favored Hoplite or 10th District Legionnaire, keep the counters on them. Similarly with the Virtuoso, you can connive, flip things into your graveyard like Homestead Courage, or kind of churn through your graveyard. The sideboard, you have Flowstone and Infusion, which is kind of a 1-mana removal spell, but can also, in a pinch, be used as a pump on your own things. Lauren's Escape for protection, Rending Volley for blue or white things, Destroy Evil for big things, Rest in Peace for graveyard hate, and then Showdown of the Skulls for the like Rakdos matchups, heavy removal matchups when you need some card advantage. You can shift into something like this. I apologize. My allergies, if you can hear, are terrible. But we're going to push through. All right. So, like I said, I'm going to port these over in the best we can. So this is the Rakdos Waste Not deck. So Waste Not got a reprinting in the Enchanted Tales. Really cool art on it. But this version of the deck, so it's kind of got the Rakdos Midrange vibes, but you're using Beseech the Mirror to tutor up specific spells. So you have a discard package. You have like Kroxa to make them discard. Hidetsuku Consumes All can be used for the various modes and then be beseeched away because it's an enchantment. You can make treasure tokens with like Fable the Mirror Breaker. Mirror Breaker itself can be tutored away. So you can like beseech for like Liliana. Slaughter Games as a one of to just take out like combo pieces. Go blanks. You can tutor up removal. You have Rankle's Prank in here. So kind of like a toolboxy discard deck. And the biggest thing too is like Beseech can help you find Waste Not. A big thing with these decks is if you don't have Waste, like if you have Waste Not on 2, you're doing pretty well. If you don't get Waste Not, then you're just kind of 1-for-1ing. But attacking your opponent's hand seems pretty good. And then you have like Graveyard Exile, stuff like that. 2 Kroxa, so 1 Kalitas, 3 Shieldreds in the side. The rest of the sideboard's pretty much all legal, just various removal. The one card we don't have is Dreadbore, but you could play like Edict or something in the place there. We then go to the Bushwhacker deck. So another deck that's been kind of around, but it's been now including Regal Bunnicorn as well as Emodane. Recruiter, so this gives you another effect like the Reckless Bushwhacker that can come in. Another card you might want to try is the Mouse. The 2 mana, your second spell costs 1 less for the turn, and then it gives +1. That's a card that can maybe be tried out. I've seen some versions play Embercleave as well. This version is on Jengantha, so you can't play it. I would probably, for the Arena version, just play Embercleave, given that you don't have the Bushwhackers. The big power turns are with Bushwhacker, but because you can't Bushwhacker in this deck, you just have Emodanes, which is 1 more mana. You can't do like the turn 2 big power play. But with Embercleave, it's very easy to make it a 2 mana spell. To kind of go from there. So I'll probably switch it to have the Embercleaves in there. But the core of the deck is just like cheap creatures. You could use Ornithopter or any of the incidental ways with Thraben Inspector or the Voldaren Aperture that make blood or clue tokens. You Gleeful Demolition it, you get 3 counters or 3 creatures, then turn 2 effectively. You can either Venerated Loxodon or Knight Errant of Eos, and then either get card advantage or put counters on things like that. So then we have a kind of Pia Nalar Adventures Lucky Clover list, which was pretty sweet. And I'm going to probably try this out because I got a lot of these cards in paper as well. So Lucky Clover doubles up on the adventure spells that you play. And then you have things like obviously Bone Crusher Giant. You have the Edgewalling Keeper for card advantage. Pia Nalar triggers when you cast things from exile. Incidentally, all your adventure cards are from exile, so you get the value there. So it's moving away from the Reckless Impulse style package into more of a creature kind of deck. You have like the Pollen Shield Hair, which makes your other tokens larger, and then can be a big burst to one of your creatures. You can give like a Thopter unblockable, or like with flying, it can potentially be unblocked, and then you can give it a bunch of power. Heartflame Duelist as a way to just deal 3 damage multiple times. You have lifelink on it, so with either the Stomp or the Duelist, you get that value there. And then you have Questing Druid for the card advantage engine. Torch the Tower can sack any of this stuff. This is kind of an upgrade over like Fiery Impulse in that it can hit Planeswalkers, and it has the Exile and has the Scry. You also have some copies of Escape the Wilds over Showdown of the Skulls in this particular deck. Your curve's a little bit higher with some of these creatures, so Escape the Wilds lets you play extra lands and kind of go from there. Sideboard, pretty much stock in terms of outside of like Wear and Tear, cards that you can play in the format. Alpine Moon should be legal. M19, yeah, should be legal. And then we see like an update to the mono white humans. This list is going on a Boros version of the deck. So the only card we don't have is Kynthian. You could play just like another one of the 1-drop creatures. This version here is playing Imodin's Recruiter as another way to either make, like late game, you can make 2 knights. Early game, you can just, or like earlier, you kind of go 1-drop, 2-drop, maybe 3-drop, haste them all out. Big power play like that. Or if you go like 1-drop, 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 play this on 3, kind of smash in that way. You have Emberth Veteran, just another 2-1 human in the deck. Then you kind of have all your boosts in terms of humans. Ember Cleave on top of that, as well as Witch Stalker Frenzy. This could basically be a 1-mana deal 5 in the deck, so it deals with Shieldred, stuff of that nature. This version's also playing 3 Invasion of Gobokan in the main as kind of tax style effects. This helps against the Rakdos matchup, the Rakdos Sack matchup, because usually Cat just kind of consistently blocks your Adeline or your big creatures, and then they can ping. This way you kind of just go over the top with the Ember Cleaves. And then lastly, someone was asking about it. I found the Golgari Midrange deck. So this is kind of a mix of like the standard port over with the powerful cards from Explorer Pioneer. So we have Bankbuster in here, Scavenging Ooze, so it's playing the Graveyard Trespasser, Glissa, Mosswood Dread Knight kind of package in there, Misery Shadow, Knight of Even Legion, so a little bit more aggressively slanted midrange. The one card we don't have, Abrupt Decay, we can play Assassin's Trophy in place of this. Castle Lockwain helps for like grind value, and then interesting to see like Casualties of War might be a little bit too big mana, but could be useful in certain matchups. Just kind of a bunch of flexible removal kind of mixed into there, Graveyard Hate, just kind of hitting them from all those angles in that sense. So that's kind of it. Like I said, there's kind of tweaks along the edges. As we kind of get more data, I'll start showing win rates, stuff of that nature, but I wanted to get an Explorer video out. Folks were asking for the content. I'll try to do something similar with Historic as well. But in any case, thank you for watching. Hope you have a great one and stay safe out there.